Hey guys, and welcome to another Schematics update. This time we want to talk about triggers, because we are a little bit triggered about triggers.
Man!
I'm sorry, but I had to do this.
Oh boy.
We means it's me, AdfoTV. You can find my stuff on YouTube and Twitter, you know the deal. And next one, please.
Hi, I am pissed off at Adfo for making that joke. My name is Greg. The internet calls me blind, and I stream at twitch.tv/BlindIRL.
Why you're pissed off?
Because you made that joke.
Okay.
And I'm Frog. I do stuff on the internet, be it through Planet Coaster or other random things that I end up doing. And I hardly know these people after that joke. Just for legal reasons.
Yeah, it's me, Rudy, the camel of Planet Coaster, so to say. Yeah, you can find my stuff, as always, on YouTube and on Twitter and also on Twitch, meanwhile.
So, we want to talk about triggers. Rudy, why do we want to talk about triggers?
Well, I want to first of all say I love the trigger system in the game for the fact that we do have it, but I think it's one of the parts of the game which needs the biggest improvement overall. Right after the adventure pack, which added so many new animatronics, I thought, okay, that's the point where we really need to talk about this, and here we are talking about this.
Really quick round. Who uses triggers?
Me.
I don't, because the system is garbage.
Yep.
What?
I used them because they had a bit of variety and a bit of motion to things.
I used them mainly to try what they are capable of and to break the system as much as possible to see what's what we can do else with those kind of things. And I quickly came to a limit.
Just to clarify, I do use them. I just use them sparingly and minimally.
Same.
Because I find this system to be very cumbersome and hard to penetrate, at least for me. It's maybe a combination of the way the UI is laid out for the trigger system and how it works mechanically on the rides. It takes a very long time, and I never find the outcome to be that good, partially because I don't use the system all that much, so I'm bad at it. So the combination of those two things, it being a hard system to learn, it taking a long time, and me not being particularly good with it due to me not liking the way the system works, it just kind of leads to me not using it because I stream a lot and it's boring to watch me fumble around with a system that I'm bad at. I'd rather make a beautiful looking static image with a light that turns on than animating a huge chunk of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on your side, Blind. I'm not using them a lot because I think the system isn't that good. I tried to animate a tunnel of lights, and after half an hour figuring shit out, I gave up because it's not that accurate.
Yeah.
We had the discussion before with the fireworks not using triggers, but we would like to have a sort of mix master, which wasn't that accurate either back then, but it was better. MIO.
That's maybe the point where I have to jump in. I think they spent a whole bunch of thoughts into it, and on some points I just feel the basement is done. It's working, and I think it's working good. Like they added now the feature that you don't just play things, you can activate them, deactivate them, and you can also play them for a certain duration, and you can also set up an interval, which is great. And yet again, they didn't think of it till the end.
Yeah.
Just a little example, I figured out that I want to have a waterfall, and I want to stop the waterfall once the coaster goes through it. So I thought, okay, I just need to grab the waterfall item and say deactivate on a certain time, and then take the same thing and say activate again. But apparently, you also need a third one, which is at the beginning, where you say activate. Because if you hit the thing and put in deactivate, it's automatically deactivated from the beginning, which is not the intention of it. Why can't I just say, okay, deactivate it for like 5 seconds?
Yeah.
You know, you have play, but why don't you have stop? You have activate and deactivate. Okay, yeah, but why not let us choose a time? So, you know what I mean. It's good. They have good ideas and they put it in, and it's well implemented in that kind of sense how it works with UI and stuff. But then again, the second step is missing.
You guys talked about Mixmaster, which was from Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 even.
Yes.
That was mainly used for sequencing firework displays and water displays and all that kind of stuff. But I feel we do have something a little bit similar in the display sequencer in Planet Coaster. I completely understand you guys saying, I don't want to have to faff around with all of this stuff, but I feel the display sequencer is something that is so required in ways to create these trigger effects. You just say trigger that display sequence rather than trigger all of these individual items. It makes things a bit easier, but there are differences between the display sequencer and the Mixmaster from Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. One's a timeline kind of system, and the display sequencer is kind of a list of things to hit at certain times rather than durations, really. I feel that's like a necessary part on using the triggers and making sure that this works as best and optimally as possible with the rules that we've been given.
One thing which is really important about the display sequencer to mention in comparison to the Mixmasters, if you just look closely to them, they kind of work identically. The only issue is that, and that's maybe just a graphic issue or a visual issue, the Mixmaster provided you with this nice overview of how long an effect is playing. And this is something which is a little bit tricky now. You can set them up really nicely in the sequencer and in the menu, which they created really nicely, but it's just you just typing in numbers, right? So it's really for the hard programmer persons out there who are really into numbers. I think it's missing the visual aspect of showing you, okay, I have my trigger set here to the water and the effect is not playing for 3 seconds, so this is my gap. If you know it, it's fine, but if you would have this in a little graphic like we had it in the Mixmaster, that would help. But just from the way how it works, it's totally the same. The only thing which I love, and this is pretty good that you mentioned that, Fog, the display sequencer not just helps by doing complicated stuff, it also helps doing blueprints. It was a nightmare doing blueprints with it before, because you needed to set up that yourself.
Basically now with the sequencer you can set your own trigger points.
Exactly.
So you just need to figure out when they should be triggered.
Exactly.
Which, yeah, I agree. It's way more easier, but I think the sequencer itself is okay if you do small things like saying, okay, the door opens here and it closes automatically and stuff like that. Or if you have a ride and you have a little scene set up with animatronics next to it and you want to start them.
Yeah.
But the more you go in depth and want to create real scenes, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do something bigger, and honestly, even though my adventure gate looks simple, it was a nightmare with a lot of effects. What I would love to have is just let me freaking group things. I mean, now people would scream, well, you can group. Yeah, you can group. But the thing about grouping is you just create a group and then you trigger the whole group, or you can trigger one item within the group. It would be so nice if I could just select 6 VFX and then just hit group, and then I have kind of one trigger which I can decide how long, when, and how should it be played. Let me just, for example, say all the stones I used to make them move, like those trap stones that move forward and back. So if you then would select all of them and you would have a delay of, for example, 1 second each, that would be easy if I just could grab all the ones and then say delay 1. And then it automatically creates a delay of 1 between each
group, just to clarify.
Yeah, what you need to do now is, as long as you have just one item, it's totally fine. You can just have one. But for example, if you have 2 sides, left and right, and you want to sync them, you create 2 groups. And then you basically copy the whole group and do the same thing again. But why can't I just select them, copy those things, and just say copy with trigger effects?
Yeah, I had the same issue with the tunnel I was doing, because I wanted to have a light effect that's going alongside the track.
Yeah.
So I had to select each light individually for each group and set a delay. And after like doing that with 5 groups, each like 10 lights, I was like, no, fuck it, I'm out.
I understand.
The only issue we have is that in the group, you can't select multiple items and delay them at once.
Yeah.
You always have to delay each individual item itself.
I think for me, there's 2 issues with the system. One is just the fundamental design of the system. 2, it's how hard it is to select everything. That's the main thing that pushes me away from setting up trigger groups and everything. There are certain items, especially when you have a fully constructed ride or setup and you're trying to animate something, that have such small hitboxes, it immediately becomes cumbersome to try and, okay, I need to pick out this one light, or I need to pick out this one archer, or I need to pick out this one item in like a over-designed mess of items, which is usually what ends up happening when we play this game. And then copy that with then having to, as you said, set delays and then sequence everything up. Like the combination of all of that is just kind of a nightmare.
I think we do have a system ready which would work perfectly, and this is the blueprint setting. If I could be able to create a blueprint of a trigger animation that I can use over and over again within a sequencer, that would be beautiful. It would be so easy to just have this trigger sequence save that as a, let's call it trigger blueprint, and then go into your sequencer and add a blueprint from your trigger blueprints. And bam, there you go. You just need to reposition the little new item on the coaster track. That would be so simple. You can always go in and change several items yourself, but then you would have things ready. And for example, your thing you said before, Advo, that would make things so simple because you just have to set that up once.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been more lost.
I think that's the problem with the system, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think the system is over-designed. I think there is a very elegant solution for all of these problems.
Mixmaster.
That wasn't an elegant solution, but okay. There is a more elegant solution to these problems than what we have, but it requires a complete redesign of this system.
I agree, yeah.
And the blueprint system that you're proposing is interesting, and I agree with that, but I don't think it would fix anything. The problem that I'm starting to realize that I have with the whole system is the way that there's just the setting of the delays by manually clicking on a box and typing in the delay. I genuinely wish they had like a pie chart or some sort of just click and drag here system that in my mind is perfectly visible in the Planet Coaster UI and so much simpler
Yes.
than having to do this. And I don't think they'll ever do a full UI redesign of the system, but until they do, I don't think I'm ever going to use it.
I think that's a good point, and maybe that's the last thing about stuff which is in the game and working, because afterwards we have a few points about stuff which isn't working. But back to your point, Blind, I totally feel that they have everything in position to do like this kind of visual thing, because in this kind of sense, I think that my knowledge of programming is enough to understand that you have a system where you put in values, and those values give you the exact position of a graphic.
I played with Lego Mindstorms back in the day. I understand how programming works. Go on.
I have the R2D2 from Lego, so we are all in a good position, I guess. I think it should be possible to do a graphics overlay of this. Anyways, referring to the things that don't work, and this is now a little bit off topic because it's not triggers actually, but it is the animatronic.
Trigger announced.
Wow. You deserve that pie of puns today.
What was that?
I'm not even sure, to be completely honest.
Just went full exorcist.
Was it you or your cat?
Blame the cat, blame the cat.
if my cat made that sound, it would be going to the vet.
And the next question would be, what did he do with the cat to make that sound?
I don't want to know. Go on, please.
No, go on. Yeah, okay, I'm going on. Okay, well, like, the thing is, we have a whole bunch of new animatronics in the game, and I was testing, and again, back to the adventure gate as an example, to change the time when the gate is open, so that you could set that up yourself. But then I figured, well, there is no way of doing so, because you actually can't change the duration of any animatronic in the game, except the lights, if you call them animatronics, which I won't. Everything else, which is moving as an animatronic, is moving in the duration that Frontier wants it to move.
So basically what you're saying is you want to slow down the animation itself, or speed it up, so it's faster or slower.
Yeah, I thought about that at first place, because that would be the best solution, but, you know, I would be also happy with a compromise solution if I could stop the animation at a certain point and decide when it's going to play again, so they don't have to break then their system, because I feel the struggle that if you have a certain animation and they're doing it all hand animated, right? So I understand the struggle if you would change the speed, because then it maybe looks kind of awful.
A little bit more jarring, yeah.
Yeah, if I could say, okay, once you have one interval done, please stop there. So for example, with like the stones I used for the gate, I couldn't change how fast they're going forward and backwards. So I only want to say, okay, do your whole process of animation one time, but stop there for like 5 seconds and come back again.
So basically, open the gate, stop there till I tell you to close again.
Yeah, because even with gates you can't. You're forced to use the open time of the gate. I mean, hell, you can't even leave it open and then close it to a certain point. It's also not possible.
So with the animatronics, I kind of get the impression that they're running on almost like a sequence of either positions or either frames, let's call them. I would imagine that a lot of the animatronics that we have are not going to be all the same number of frames. Compare the bandits and the pirate animations with something like the barrel slide where there's possibly a few more, or even the Kraken. There's going to be different variances. I'm wondering if they were to go back, put this frame by frame bit in. Let's say a door has 100 frames and on 50 it is fully open, and then add a frame hold to keep that door open. It would be quite a lot of work, but it would be quite interesting to have that sequence say, okay, well, instead of starting at 1, maybe start at 50, so the door's open to begin with, and then it goes through the sequence almost like on an invert.
Yeah, exactly. For the beginning, it would be enough to say, okay, we have the open and the closed state, and we can decide to use them. It's a little bit easier with timing, because actually I spent 2 hours of testing different rides in their normal speed compared to doors and all the animatronics. And what apparently was really annoying is that even halfway of the animatronics, like traps and doors and stuff, won't work with like half of the rides, because in their normal kind of speed, they won't make it through. For me, that was a little bit a bummer, because then I either have to position those things higher to be realistic enough, or I have to be a little bit more workaroundy with the speeds. And that's not what I want. I want to have my boat go through the gate in a slow manner and not like build a waterfall so the boat makes it through.
I think we've covered pretty much everything. But I just want them to change the way the system looks.
I do see that as well. I feel you also, because if you don't go into this like I did, I forced myself to, it's really annoying.
I totally agree with Blind. The UI is terrible, definitely.
Yeah.
Looking back, I don't really understand why they didn't change it before fireworks went live. Because yes, everybody asked for fireworks, and everybody asked for fireworks now, basically. So I totally get why they kind of hurried to implement that feature into the game. But on the other hand, that would have been the perfect opportunity, because I don't see a lot of firework shows and stuff like that happening. And I do think it's because, let's face it, the UI for triggers sucks.
Yeah, because the fireworks are freaking great.
Exactly.
Oh, the fireworks look beautiful. A fireworks show done well is so good.
I think a lot of people don't do it because you have to put hours and hours just of trial and error to make it work.
Hey, on the Spotlight show, there was one week where we got a very, very early build of a Disney recreation.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And it was basically just like kind of an empty main street and then the castle. Behind the castle, there was like 50 different triggers. And we're like, okay, where do we start this?
Yeah.
And there was like a 3-minute long fireworks display with music. And I think that's the only one I've ever seen. And the creator of it was in the chat, and he stated that he worked on it for 5 days straight.
Wasn't it Scrubbers McGee?
That sounds right. I want to say it was Scrubbers.
Maybe we should invite him then next time to an episode about that one. So maybe as a final note, I guess, and that's what I wanted to say at the beginning, they have everything in the game. The only thing is, I feel it's just not brought together visually and mechanically how we need it to be easy to use. You can do all this kind of stuff. It's absolutely possible. Except the thing of timing because of animatronics duration, but everything else is possible. And as you said, if you subdivide everything into groups, triggers, sequences, and like the main sequencer, that's totally good, but you will most definitely lose track of what you did there, because if you don't have a super great naming system, you're definitely gonna get lost in it.
Well, it kind of comes down to the organization. Whilst I haven't really done it too much with display sequences, I will have specific building plans dedicated to trees, dedicated to FX, dedicated to rocks, just so that I can click it and know that I'm only dealing with the rocks. And I think that's just something that could benefit people moving forward with using this stuff, to have like a tree, almost like a layout of all these display sequences, maybe going off for miles if you're making that grander scope of a project.
But the only thing is, I feel it's not up to us. But anyways, first of all, guys, I have to thank you, because I just pitched that so quickly, and I'm so happy we talked about that thing in this group now, because I think that makes things a little bit more clear, and hopefully you viewers can follow this, because even for us it was hard to follow.
Yeah, we lost fog halfway.
I struggle.
I think we should wrap this up here.
Yep.
Yes.
Once again, we introduce ourselves. I'm AdfoTV. You can find my stuff on YouTube and Twitter.
Hi, I'm Sleepy. I've been awake for 22 hours, and I stream on twitch.tv/BlindIRL. I play simulation and management games. Also, you can find me at stupidskull.com.
Which is a great website. I'm Fog. Whilst I'm not technologically and programmingly minded, I'll admit I did lose my way, but maybe you guys can find your way to my social media stuff. I go on Twitch, and I also go on YouTube, and check out the workshop for the kind of oddities that I make in that.
Okay, I'm outroducing myself then. Rudy, so sorry, I wanted to take that crown from you, Advo. Yeah, the BlindIRL, you can find me mainly on YouTube, also on Twitter, and also on Twitch.
Cool, so for our viewers, thanks a lot for viewing and listening. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, whatever it is, as always, we have a wonderful comment section under the video. Feel free to use it. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.